What's up guys, Ben here from Velocity PT Academy, and today we're going to be doing a bleep test.
What's up guys, as you've already heard, it's Ben here from Velocity PT Academy. So today I've kind of been challenged by the guys in the office to see how I cope with doing a bleep test. Now I haven't done one of these in years. Back when I used to play football, we did them in pre-season just to kind of gauge our overall conditioning and cardiovascular fitness. Now I'm gonna run through this video, just kind of give you a voiceover, just so then you can understand how the bleep test runs, and maybe you can have a look at doing this potentially with yourself, or if you've got any like clients and maybe athletes playing rugby, football or anything like that, so it can always help out. So with the bleep test, as you can see here, I've missed the first beep already, so yeah, I kind of thought that it was a lot slower than what it actually was, the first bleep. I always kind of remember being able to walk it first and foremost, but I actually didn't end up getting away with that. Now, just to kind of give you an idea of the bleep test and how to set it out if you are wanting to do it with your clients or if you wanted to do it for yourself. So firstly, you need to place some markers out. So you need to place these markers 20 meters apart from each other. Now we just set up 2 markers and all they are like little ab sliders that we got sent from MirrorFit. We are going to do a video on that gym-based equipment company in the future, but we just used those as markers just because we didn't have any cones. And what you also need to do as well is have an actual bleep test audio recording. Now we kind of went guerrilla style on this one, so all I did was park my car up in the car park, wound all the windows down, cranked up the volume on the radio, and just fed it from my phone into the audio in my car, and that just kind of played it on the beeps during it whilst we were doing it. Now the main idea of the bleep test is, from these cones are 20 meters apart, all we're going to do is just run in between each cone. Now when the beep happens on the audio recording, then you set off to the next cone. So as you can see here in the early stages of this beep test, I'm running, I'm stopping, waiting for the beep, and then I'm carrying on, because you don't want to set off before that beep. You want to look to conserve your energy, especially when it gets to the higher periods of the bleep test. Now you continue to do this up until you reach a maximum effort, and when you miss a beep, look to still continue and try and catch up. If you can catch up with the tempo, you'll find that when I come into the latter parts of this video, and all you get to do is, when you miss 2 beeps, 2 consecutive beeps, then you've failed at the bleep test. That's what you've done. Each level lasts approximately 1 minute. And you're looking to gauge from speed starting at 8 kilometers an hour and then building up to 18.6 kilometers an hour. So that's kind of roughly the bleep test, how we've done it here as well. Now conditions weren't great, I'm going to just put that out there first and foremost, because as you can see from the ground, it's a little bit wet, so it did get a little bit slippy. That's not me making excuses for myself, but I just want to make you aware of that as well. In previous pastimes, what we've done is we've just pulled a car up onto a field, and then we've looked to do it on a field. Now that can sometimes give you more traction if you're wearing things such as football and rugby boots, but here I'm just in my normal running trainers on a wet surface. How we measured out the 20 meters as well, we used a tape measure of all things, so we knew that it were relatively quite accurate rather than spacing it out with our feet. Now with the bleep test, it does record something called your VO2 max. Now your VO2 max is a great way of working out your maximum capacity of how you transport and use oxygen during incremental exercises. Now it is basically the be all and end all. Now if you have cardiovascular fitness, the name is derived from V, standing for volume, O2 for oxygen, and max for maximum. And it's used to compare performance for endurance athletes, and it's expressed as a relative rate of milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute. Now the VO2 max score relatively just in a nutshell, tells you how fit you are, effectively. And that's the main purpose of this bleep test, just to test out your overall cardiovascular fitness. A couple things as well with the bleep test that you might not be aware of. It is a really big mental game as well, such as like any type of cardiovascular exercise. It's very easy to talk yourself into taking a break, stopping, being a good idea, because that's overall what your mind's wanting you to do. It's wanting you to say, right, no, we can't go any further, you're tired, things are getting a little bit too close to that adaptation phase in your body. We're going to a place that we haven't been to in a very long time, so therefore I just want to stop. So mentally you need to tell yourself and have that mental fortitude to just kind of put one foot in front of the other, just work from beep to beep. You don't want to continuously hear what level that you're at, because that may put you off. You just want to get focused, get in the zone, and just kind of always think, right, just want to get to that next beep, that's the next goal, and you're setting those incremental goals. I'm going to be totally honest with you here. I had a goal in my head of what level that I wanted to get to, because I have done this in the past and I wanted to kind of get to aim for those levels before. This one, as you're probably going to see anyway, it totally caught me off guard, because I just totally forgot how quick it was, essentially, and how kind of non-stop it was. So a little kind of brief history in regards to the bleep test. Now, it's actually created by Luce Ledger from the University of Montreal, and it was actually first published in 1983, which, if you think, that's not that long ago if you think for a fitness test. But yeah, that's still a relatively new style of fitness testing, is the bleep test. And when we come into looking at scores, so what's a good score, what's a bad score, I'm just going to give you some normative figures and data for those scores. So these are all from Bashil et al. From the World of Sport Examined in 1997. This was published in. So we'll start out with average male scores. So a 14 to 16 year old male should be looking to get up to 8.9. Now that should be an average. That should be a total average for a male at 14 to 16 year old. At 17 to 20 years old, we're looking at 9.2 for an average score. And at 21 to 30 year old, 9.3 is an average score for that. Now if we then get later on into life, so 31 to 40, it decreases quite rapidly, so we're looking at 6.10 is the average score for that one. Moving over to females, so a 14 to 16 year old female, 6.7 is an average score for them. 17 to 20 years old, for a female, 6.8 is the average. 21 to 30 for a female, 6.6 is the average. And 31 to 40 for a female, 6.3 is the average there. So again, these are average scores, guys. Now, if you do consider yourself to be a fit, actively healthy person, you maybe do go on a couple park runs on a weekend or something, then you do want to be aiming higher than that. So initially for this bleep test, before I did it, I wanted to get 13. That was my score. Now you might think I'm a daydream believer thinking that, but back in the day when I used to do them, it was I used to get 13.5, 14 were my scores. But at that time I was an active footballer, playing football every day professionally. So when it came to doing this, I've not had a big history in the past recent 5 to 6 years of that sort of cardiovascular exercise day to day. I've been more in the gym, I've been more just wanting to lift weights and getting comfy, settling down with life, settling down with work. So I didn't take those factors into consideration. I'll be the first one to say that. But as we can see, I'm getting a lot later into the bleep test here anyway, so I'm starting to flag. I'm hitting the beeps right on the nose. I'm having to pick up the pace. Now, as you'll see getting further into it, as I'm picking up that pace, I'm then losing it underfoot as well, especially when I get to that top end. Again, I'm not making excuses. I'm not making excuses, but the faster I went, the harder it was to stop and turn. But yeah, so that's pretty much the Bleep test, guys. I mean, feel free, test it out on clients if you've got some clients that are wanting to do some cardiovascular testing. Test it out on yourself. It's always a good idea of gaining a good measurement of yourself. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do this as well, this Bleep test, is to show you guys how to do one, be totally open and honest with my own fitness levels, and also for myself to gauge a benchmark, because actually at the end of September I'm going to be running a half marathon. So I wanted to gauge a benchmark before I started my training, because this was shot a couple of weeks ago actually. Gauge a benchmark of my actual cardiovascular fitness, and then what I'm going to do towards the half marathon, I am then going to retest and see how much better my score gets. So I definitely know within this retesting period I am going to want to hit that 13 mark. That is my goal. And then final slip and I'm gone. 10.7 was my score. For the first time running the Bleep test in, I would probably say 6.5, 7 years. It's a very tough test. But a very humbling test at the same time. My ego told me 13, but my body and mind told me another thing. There's loads of different fitness testing things you can do as well, but if you are looking to improve your cardiovascular fitness, VO2 max, this is a good benchmark and then a good test to then gauge whether your training is pushing you in the right way.
I'll tell you now, that one good. Back when I used to do that, I used to get like 13, 14. That's what happens when you start going to the gym, innit?